You are now listening to the Canadian Talkin Shop podcast with Stu Francis.
Welcome to another episode of the Canadian Talkin Shop podcast, hosted by yours truly, Stu Francis. And joining me today is the editor, meme creator, and now, as of this moment, no longer the guest co-host, but just co-host of the podcast, the little yellow dog lover himself, Mr. Mike Berikoff.
So happy to be here and so excited about everything and all the support that we got over that first episode. I thank everybody that was listening and supporting us for sharing, and some of the subscribers that came my way and everything. It's just really cool, the support that I'm seeing from everybody, and I'm so excited to be a bigger part of this.
Yeah, well, I always wanted it to be kind of a co-host situation, but because of what you've explained to me before in the past and whatnot with your battle with Crohn's and whatnot, I didn't want to put that pressure on you that you had to be involved all the time. So I figured, if I just say as the guest co-host, then at least you understood that if I needed to carry it on my own, I can carry it on my own. But for all intents and purposes, there's going to be nobody else that's going to do any co-hosting duties. And if they did, they'd be the guest, because you're the ongoing, you're the one that's here. You always make time to make this happen. So it just didn't seem appropriate anymore. And not only that, people seem to really like you. And a lot of my friends and whatnot, because most of our listeners are either my friends or your friends. And the people that reach out to me are obviously my friends, and they were mentioning, Mike sounded really intelligent and I really enjoyed listening to him. So it just didn't seem right to go with the guest spot anymore.
Which is strange to me, because not many people really do like me, and I'm not an approachable person. I'm actually a very angry person when it comes down to things, and very unapproachable.
Especially by the looks of you, like, holy shit, thank God this is an audio podcast. If they had one look at you, they'd cross the street.
Well, yeah, man, I haven't shaved for probably I'd say it's about a month. And I've just been letting the hair fucking go with it.
Yeah. You got the whole COVID.
Yeah. And then I was going to, like, for real, I was going to, shave it all off and all this. And then I'm looking online, and one of my friends on there, he has a way to donate his, like, I call it the fro that just goes, to cancer.
Right.
Like a donation to cancer. So I found out where that place is, and I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do with it. If they'll take my hair, I'm gonna go with it that way. And that's one of the rules, he said, as long as they don't dye it, right? And I'm all natural, so natural.
Adding some culture to the Canadian Talkin Shop podcast, speaking en français.
Some Le Chrétien.
Oh man. That's it. It's been 5 minutes and I already regret removing the guest spot from the co-host title. But that's super cool that you're going to be a part of that. Is there something that you think we can do in terms of like a campaign for this? Do you think we can get an initiative started here on the show where we can promote online that maybe starting in like a little fundraiser or something like that? Like, if we need to take a picture of you with this fucking hair of yours, and I think we need to grow it out a little longer, maybe get a Jesus complex going on, and we'll just keep going. We'll get people to get donations to make you grow your hair out.
This will be really fun, because it's gonna be summer's right around the fucking corner, right? Like,
it is, but if people are willing to give donations for you to grow your hair out in the name of getting it all chopped off for cancer, I mean, we need to set like targets here. Like, how long we gonna grow the sucker? Are we talking shoulder length? Or are we talking fucking to the ass? Like, what are we doing here?
It just grows up.
So have you grow it must come down. What goes up must come down. So if that's,
you got ups, that's fucking bonks.
Oh no. We won't even get started on bonks, like, because bonks is a lie. Bonks does not exist. We're not gonna go there. But anyway, I think that's a really cool idea that we could start up here. And if you're willing, it's all up to you and your comfort level. But how willing to let your hair go? Are you willing to let it go fucking to your shoulders or what?
I'll talk to the people when I talk to them about the hair thing, and I'll see what they're into. If they're like into like they're just like your fucking hair sucks, dude. Like I don't want this bullshit in my fucking establishment. Then yeah, we just won't do it. But if they're totally down, um, yeah, I'll go. I'll go for a while. Like if that number's getting up there, like I don't see why I'd stop. So, but I don't know how much the guy, my friend, gets as a donation for it too, right? Because I always thought it was like women's hair, you know, long and luscious or whatever, that it
Wow,
gets all the
fuck.
money.
It's gonna be Berikoff soon, long and luscious. Luscious. There we go.
Great français.
Oh man, this is not even 10 minutes in and it's already off the fucking rails. But we can definitely put something together. We can start a fundraiser of some kind. Like I've mentioned many times, I'm all about using platforms for good, and we're going to get into some other bit of good that we're going to do with our platform. But first, let's pay some bills. So follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or wherever you find your major podcasts. The YouTube channel you can find by searching Canadian Talkin Shop. That's TALKIN, or clicking the link listed in the episode description. If you don't have a YouTube account or access to any of the podcast platforms mentioned earlier, go to CanadianTalkinShop.ca. Again, that's Talkin, TALKIN, and listen to the podcast there, as you don't need any account or any app of any kind. And as of today, we are setting the goal to have 500 subscribers and followers on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and social media. So tell your friends, share the content. We want to get to 500. I'm hoping by, I'd say about 6 months from now. It's the 6-month target from today's date. And we're recording this on March 7th. So 6 months out from now, that's when we'd like to see 500 subscribers on all podcast platforms. Please help us get there. And also be sure to follow all of our social media channels: Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at CTS_pod, Facebook.com/Canadian Talkin Shop podcast, CTS podcast, all one word, on Snapchat. Also check out our Patreon, patreon.com/CTS_pod, where we have tier membership programs that allow patrons to support the show and get something back in return. Obviously, your support is greatly appreciated. We have one tier offered right now. It's $4 Canadian a month, $3 American. It goes a long way in helping out the show and helping it grow. So please, if you have it in you to give us a subscription there, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, we were talking about merch on the very first episode, and I just wanted to clear up something that came along after we recorded the episode. We're going to go in a different direction. We're just going to pivot. We appreciate everything that the print guys done. Shout out to the print guys that got my hoodie together, and we were thinking about collaborating on a fulfillment site, but I've chosen to go with the fulfillment on my own. So if you head to CanadianTalkinShop.ca, you'll also notice there's a shop that it's located on the website. It's going to have 2 items listed in there at the moment. Coming soon, we're going to have a hoodie and we're going to have a t-shirt. We're just going to start small and work our way up. And it's going to be available for pre-order. We will announce the pre-order launch dates when they come. Not too sure exactly when that's going to be, but all details will be coming soon. We'll be sure to keep everyone updated on the podcast as time goes on. But we're going to be donating a portion of the proceeds to CAMH still, which is the Center of Mental Health and Addiction in Toronto, Ontario. And it's something that is near and dear to my heart as someone that suffers from anxiety and depression due to mental health problems. So we want to do our part, and yeah, so pre-sale for any of the merchandise coming soon. I just want to give some shout outs to my friend Samantha, aka Sammy Bear, Allison, Stacy, Alan, and another one of my best friends, a dude that's been like a brother to me many years, James, for tagging the podcast and let us know you're listening. And to everyone else that's been sharing the show with their friends online, we both appreciate you guys so much. Please make sure to tag either myself, Mike, or the show when you share online so that we can see it. Otherwise, we may not see it. I have noticed that a bunch of you beauties have shared, but there was no tag. I didn't see it until later on. Either way, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. And we have our first review, Mike.
That's excellent.
Well, I don't know about that because they talk about you and it's not a very flattering review. It's actually, I don't know. Should I read this online? Do you think I should?
I don't know. I think you should.
All right. She rips into you, bud, I must
Oh,
say.
yeah.
But anyway, she says, yes, I just finished it today. And my favorite part is when Mike says, do you ever feel like a plastic bag? And you're like, what? I usually ask folks that regularly and usually get met with the same response you gave. Awesome job, Stuart. Like I said before, voice for radio. You should both be so proud.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for the support.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stacy. We appreciate that. I realize a lot of people aren't really podcast listeners per se, and they're only giving this episode or this show a shot just because they know one of the two of us. But anyway, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much to everyone involved on both sides of Mike's side and my side of things, and we both appreciate you immensely. But now we get to this portion of the broadcast where we get to Mike's opinion. And we get Mike's opinion on the episode that is today, and that is one of my best friends, Daniel V. What was your impression, and what were your thoughts on this one?
Very impressed with the progress he's made in the time, like 25 years old, I believe.
Yep.
Was that what I heard? And goals to be debt free in 5. Like that's pretty inspiring. It's like one of the ones where I'm actually going to get my son to listen to. He's interested in it too, like just slowly learning financial stuff. Like one of the things I did today was he's got a loonie sitting on his shelf, so I threw a quarter on it. He's gonna be like, "Why is this quarter here?" And be like, "Because your money grew."
That's cool. Yeah.
Right. So like, and then when he's older, it's like, I'm not growing your money. You need to put that in a bank or something, right? You know what I mean? Like,
it's such a dad joke, but it carries so much weight.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and that's one of the things I picked up from there. Just like it seems so common sense, put $10 away a month, put $20 away a month, but people just look back and go, I wish I would have done that 5 years ago. They don't start, so you should start. Like even if it's the dollar a day thing, right? Like how he brings up Starbucks, right? There's always something that see me, I just don't tip, so that's kind of how I save my money. Those quick thrills, not those long-term investments.
Long-term investments from a guy that doesn't even tip the pizza man $2, you fucking guy.
But if I tip him, there's no long-term investment. That guy's gonna quit his job in a month if he's smart.
Oh God, here we fucking go. I'm already regretting doing Mike's opinion too. Maybe we should hear less of Mike's opinion. We're gonna have a new segment, no opinion.
But back on the Dan episode, see, I'll save myself here. Back on the Dan episode, yeah, it's really inspiring where he's gotten, and the fact he's built a foundation for when he decides to start a family. I think that's really cool too. That's something really inspiring. People should definitely check it out, and you can get something out of that episode for sure. At least an inspiration to think about your financials and go, well, maybe he's right, because I think he is.
I think he is too. I have $75 sitting in my savings right now because I pledged to him on this episode that I'd put $25 away every single month, and now I'm watching it grow, and it gets exciting to the point where I don't even want to just put $25 away. I'm getting to a point in my life now where I could probably put more away. So so now it's like a fun game, and I took a lot from that, and he's a very impressive young man. To all the listeners that are listening to this one, I really do hope you take something away from this. He's a really, really smart kid. not even a kid. He's an adult. He's a grown ass man, but he's intelligent as hell. He's got it all mapped out, and he's hitting things accordingly. And to be one of his best friends for so long, because as you'll discover in the episode, I met him when I think we've been best friends for like 5 years now or something like that. So I met him when he was like 19, 20. And now he's like a homeowner and he's engaged and he's about to get married and all this shit. And I better be in his fucking wedding party. I tell you this. But anyway, so long story short, really great episode. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoyed it. And with that being said, let's talk shop, baby. Get to episode 2 with my guest, Daniel V. So what's going on, man? How's your day?
It's going pretty good. Can't complain. Just had a good breakfast. Not much to do on a lazy day, man. Just relax and.
Well, you're a homeowner now, so I find it hard to believe that you just have nothing to do on a Sunday.
That is true, and if you ask my fiance, she'll agree with you. But no, I did a lot of the housework yesterday while she was at work. So Sunday's kind of our chill day and relax, watch a couple movies or whatnot. So, and then I'm off tomorrow as well. So probably do some more housework tomorrow too.
Oh, okay. So you're spreading it out. See, I like the whole Sunday thing. That's my end goal. My end goal is to have nothing on Sundays. Maybe record some pods because it's fun. But I don't really want to do any work. I don't want to work for my delivery job. I don't want to work for the dispensary. I don't want to do anything, but that's my day to relax. So I find it pretty crazy because in the span of 5 minutes, we've announced that you're a homeowner, you have a fiance, and you have like a budding career. How old are you?
That's funny you asked that because I was about to say 24, but I just turned 25 in December. So
that's crazy. 25, homeowner, fiance.
Yeah.
You're living the white picket fence Canadian dream. You're only 25.
Yeah, maybe I'm aging a little faster than I should, I guess.
Well, you've always had an older soul, and that's what connected you and I when we first became friends. Because we first became friends, I want to say, were you 19 or were you 20?
That's a good question. I couldn't tell you. I know it was at Best Buy and I was still in college. I want to say maybe 19.
I want to say 19 as well, because I remember we were sitting in your van. I think it was like my third shift. And was it a van? Yeah, it was a van, right?
The CRV, Honda CRV.
CRV. Yeah. We were sitting in the CRV and we were all chilling, doing our thing. And your age became known. And I was totally shocked. Like, what the fuck? You're 19? I'm like, dude, I'm almost 40. Not really, but that's how it felt.
A little
bit of ways to go. But that's how it felt at the time. And I was so taken back, and you look young, obviously, and you still have a young look to you. Yeah, very much so. Obviously, our audio listeners cannot see, but very much a baby face. But the fact that you said you were 19, I was totally shocked, because the way you carry yourself is someone that wasn't 19 years of age, and you still persist to do that today. Why do you think that is? Why do you think at 25 you're at where you're at now, whereas so many people, even in my age group, including myself, aren't nearly as established as you are?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple of different reasons. I can't pinpoint one specific thing. I've always been an old soul, as you said. I listen to oldies music. I'm in bed by 10. I don't like to party. I don't go to the clubs. When I go on vacation, I like to lay on the beach and read a book. So anybody that's listening around my age group is probably like, how old is this guy? He's not actually 25.
Right. They're like, you're full of shit. This guy's not 25.
But I would say I've always kind of been a homebody, and I've always been an old soul. Some of the other things that really motivated me, obviously, my fiance, I've been with her for it'll be 7 years in February, also 2 years in high school, so 9 cumulative. She always really pushed me to do better, to do more. Back in the day, my dad used to joke and call me the night shift worker, because I used to wake up at 5 p.m. when everyone was having dinner, go out, smoke weed all day, and come back at around 4 a.m. And it just wasn't the lifestyle I wanted or I needed, but nobody really gave me a kick in the ass like my fiance now. So she really kept me grounded and kept me motivated. And my parents too, like both my parents moved to Canada with no money. My mom was about 13, my dad was 22. And he's always worked hard to give us, everything we've ever wanted. I have two brothers, so we've been very fortunate. So I look at that and I don't know, I feel guilty. I don't want to waste the opportunity that he's given us. And I'm very fortunate enough that, I work in the financial industry. My parents both work in the financial industry. So they've always kind of been good with money and teaching us the right things. So I was just able to take that knowledge. I've always loved money since I was a kid. I used to take money, hide it. And then if my parents asked me if I had any money, I'd say no and take their money too. Obviously, when you're a kid, you're a little bit selfish, but I've always been good with money. And, it's just having goals, I think, is the biggest thing. And it's something that we spoke about a lot, where you have to have set goals and work towards those goals. If you don't, it's kind of everything's up in the air. And there have been points where I've maybe not had them, but I think having those firm goals and having a support system in place, friends such as yourself, family, significant others, partners, play all a big part.
That's awesome, man. And I would definitely agree with your dad and your parents. I had the pleasure of having a conversation with your dad the other day, and he's a very, very, very smart man. And I can tell he's played a big role in your life, but would you say he was your role model and maybe still is your role model? Because I see the patterns of which you are, and after spending some time with him, I'm thinking this is the mini version, right? In you, like you're very much like your dad, and you're following in his footsteps in essence with your career and whatnot. So would you say he's a big time role model and a big time inspiration?
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't give him enough praise. I mean, he's worked as hard as he could, but it's kind of twofold, because he's been in his current role for about 20 something years. So he's a mortgage specialist or broker, whatever you want to call it. So I grew up with him not being around as much or always being on the phone and things like that. And as a kid, you kind of resent that, because you're like, I'm at a basketball game, but my dad's not here, or I want to ride home from school and my dad's not here. Or I used to joke and tell people, like, I thought my dad left us when I was younger because I wouldn't see him for like 3 weeks at a time. Part of that really taught me that's not the life I want for my future family and my kids. I have to give it to my dad. He's the hardest working man I've ever met. And I hope to even have half the work ethic that he does. And, his overall ethics, the way he carries himself, the way he presents himself is very professional. So he's definitely been my biggest role model growing up. As you get older, you start meeting different people and networking, and you kind of take little bits and pieces from different people. Our future father-in-law, he's has a great business mind. He's an entrepreneur. So, you take a little bit from that with my dad and some other people I've been fortunate enough to meet. But yeah, growing up, I'd say definitely my dad was probably my biggest role model.
Even just in his demeanor, like his demeanor is so calm. If you've never met him before, obviously you don't understand. But when you're around this man, you're just calm. Like if you're anxious or something of that sort, I don't know. There's just something about his aura. He just has a very calming presence to him, and you exhibit a lot of those things. So I see a lot of your dad in you. But let's talk about your mom for a second too, because what a woman she is. Probably the most kind, caring, warm, welcoming people. How has she helped and shaped who you are today?
Oh man, that's a great question. And you know what? So I'll just come out and say it. My mom and I are best friends. Like, I have two brothers, like I said. I'm sure she loves us all equally if you asked her. But growing up, me and my mom were two peas in a pod. I love cooking. I started cooking when I was around 5 or 6, and she was always there supporting me. She was always trying to teach me what she could, and was really there for me. Obviously more than my dad, but it's a bit of a trade-off because you have 3 sons to support in a family. So my mom had a great career at RBC, and she left that to go work with my dad to support him. So she really took a big step in taking one for the team, I want to say. She didn't have to go leave and support him, but she chose to because she felt that would be what's best for her family and her husband. And it's really humbling to see somebody take a step back, and instead of focusing on their own career and own career development, they really do what's best for their family at the end of the day. But she's always been my biggest supporter. I always talk to her about anything I need to talk about. I don't know. It's an interesting relationship we have. Some people would say, oh, I'm 25. I don't really want to hang out with my parents. That's weird. I'd hang out with my parents all day, every day. They're so much fun to be around. We always have a great time. When I was younger, I used to go clothes shopping with my mom, and I enjoyed it. right? Most kids are like,
Most
ew,
kids
give me
hate that
money.
shit.
No, no. I would go with my mom into the stores. I didn't care if I saw people I knew, that's my mom and she's got my back. So we've always been like that. And she's been a huge support system to me and to my father and to the rest of the family. So, you just see all the things that she does for everybody and with nothing expected in return, I think is very humbling.
Absolutely. She's the type of woman that will give you the shirt off the back, so to say, without expecting anything in return, smiling, not even thinking like you need to pay this back later at some point.
Yeah.
Very
100%.
genuine soul. Yeah. You can tell how you've been shaped by your parents. And that's why I felt it was important to highlight that. And if you're listening, Mr. and Mrs. Vincent, you guys have done a great job with your kid, and you're two really awesome people yourselves. So give yourself.
We definitely got to get them to listen to that episode.
Right. At least for the 15 minutes anyway. I'll sound like a little soundbite, but when we start bullshitting, just be like, don't listen to that. Don't listen to this idiot.
Yeah, of course. So, and I'm just fortunate enough that I've had such great parents. You hear horror stories or people that haven't had great experiences. So I can't complain. I have nothing to complain about. I have a great family and a great support system.
Yeah, you have the quintessential family, whereas not everybody's going to necessarily, because it's a big family. And of course, maybe not everybody gets along, but everybody loves each other. And I think that's one of the most important things. Now, on my dad's side of the family, it's a loving family, but we're spread out. We're all over the whole entire country. So there's that disconnect there. Whereas on the other side of my family, it's totally broken. So when I see families like yours and I see how you are with your mother and your father and stuff like that, it's always awesome to see, because I never really got to experience that. No fault of my dad's side, because like I said, they were spread around, but the woman who brought me into this world and her family, I could spend a whole podcast episode doing that, and I don't wish to give them any sort of clout or any sort of, I don't even want to disparage them or anything. It was just very difficult and it's very broken, and I have nothing to do with any of them now, except I'll always have a space for my kid's sister, and that's it. So yeah, it's really refreshing to see. And now you're in the middle of bundling and starting your own family. What's in the future in that regard? Because you've got the fiance, you've got the home. We're going to get into your career in a bit here, but we've never really talked kids. You've said that you've mentioned them or whatnot, but are you guys getting baby fever now or what?
Kind of yes and no, to be fair. So yes, because a lot of people we're friends with, we're all falling under the same life cycle. We're very fortunate that some friends of ours are expecting their child. So it definitely kind of puts things into perspective, but at the same time, we're not in a rush. Like you said, we've just moved into a new place. We've just both gotten new jobs in our career. So there's a few things we still want to do before we have kids, but kids are absolutely in the picture right now. Obviously, life's subject to change. Just want to finalize some more things, put some more plans in place, kind of enjoy a little bit more while we can. It depends on the day, I guess you can say. Some dates,
I know
sooner
that
rather than later.
Well, sure, because you're at the superstore and you're hearing some babies cry, and you're probably looking over at Shad's going, no, I don't want that. I'm not interested. But then you're sitting on the couch watching Netflix and you see some cute Hollywood version of a child, and then you look over and go, we got to make one of those, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot going on, so probably won't be for the next little while. But it's definitely something we talk about, and love the thought of having kids. Hope to be half as good as a parent as mine have been to me. So only time will tell.
Oh, I assure you, you will. I can tell you right now, you will. You'll have it more figured out than most people. I don't know how the fuck you do it. You've been blessed. You'll have it down. I have all the faith in the world. You'll be a top-notch father for sure.
Well, thank you.
And I'll continue with my uncle role, as that is best suited for me. No children for me, but I'll always be kick-ass Uncle Stu. So
yeah, you'll be the fun uncle that gets my kid into trouble. Yeah.
That's your goddamn right. But how many kids do you want? Because you keep saying kids plural, so I'm assuming that you don't want to do the one and done deal.
No. I want a big family. If you ask my fiance, we disagree. She says three's the max. Anywhere between 2 and 4. I don't want them to be an only child, but life happens and you get blessed with a bunch, then you get blessed with a bunch.
I could see that too, because you're just like your old man. You're gonna want them to live with you forever and never move out, and you're gonna feel a type of way more so than Shaz when they move, and Shaz gonna be the one that's telling you, Dan, they just live around the corner, just like your mom did with your dad only 2 months ago?
Yeah, just about November 1st. My dad comes from a big family. There was 10 of them, so he's a very family oriented, and so am I. But maybe I'll do it a little bit differently. Let's just say that. So,
man, I would love to have him on the podcast just to talk about what the fuck was it like growing up with 9 brothers and sisters, because there was 10 of them total, right?
Yeah, so 5 boys, 5 girls. Yeah,
that an even playing field. You could have an NBA game of guys versus girls.
Yeah,
that's just, to me, that's insane. Could you imagine doing that in Canada, having 10 children?
Oh my God. Yeah. I said I wanted at least a 3-on-3 basketball game. So I guess that equates to 4 kids. So we'll see.
Yeah, that looks like you went from to, it sounds like in your family history, 10's the minimum. Holy fuck.
Yeah. I mean, you got to leave room for the dogs too. So we'll see. We'll see.
You're going to end up like the guest co-host and editor of this show, Mike Berikoff. That dude, I just said yesterday when we recorded the first episode, you couldn't pull out of a driveway, bro. Like, this guy's got 5 kids too, right?
Wow.
Yeah. He's an awesome dude. And I'm actually learning a bit more about him as a father, because unfortunately he lives out in BC. So I've not really had the opportunity to spend much time with him. But the more we're doing this, which is fun about doing this, because it allows me to catch up with people, it allows me to get to know more people. Obviously we're best friends, I know you through and through, and it's fun to share your story with people, but it's also fun for me to meet up with people that I've met through the internet and then really get to know them.
Yeah,
so you would like Mike. You'll dig Mike, and he'll be on the pod guest interviewing people with me, or having conversations, I should say. I got to get rid of that word interview, because this ain't an interview. This is a conversation. But I'll have you guys on together, and I bet you it'd be a hoot for sure. At the very least, it'll be so awful we won't even release it to nobody, but at least we had a good laugh, right?
Exactly, man. I can't wait to virtually meet him, or I guess whatever you would call it. But yeah, I've heard great things about him from you, and I'm sure if he's putting up with you, he can't be half bad of a guy.
Well, that's precisely it. That goes the same with all you creatures that put up with me. Is you must be really, really good people to get that charity work in by being my friend.
Yeah.
But we talked about your career. We touched on it a little bit, the fact that you're in the financial game. Why don't you tell all the people what it is that you do?
Sure. So I guess the most common term would be financial advisor. I help clients with everyday banking, credit, investments, mortgages, kind of the whole 9 yards. I'm a bit of a generalist. Okay. For football fans out there, I'd be the quarterback, and then pass it off to specialized partners. So I've been in the industry for about 5 years in total, give or take. I actually started my career as a paralegal prior to joining the banking industry. I know you know that, but I was a paralegal. I went to college, got my diploma, got my license. I worked in a firm, and then I worked for myself. But you know what? Being 20, 21, looking like a baby going into court and trying to get clients was a little bit more difficult than anticipated, and you don't have the same structure of income and benefits and things like that. So again, talking to my parents, they said, why don't you join the bank? It's a great place to work, and there's many different areas, departments, things like that. So I originally joined as a teller in 2016, 2017, I want to say.
Yeah,
my memory's horrible.
There. Yeah, my memory's horrible. Buddy, you're fucking preaching to the choir here.
So I joined as a teller. My original plan was to make my way to the legal department. Teller for a year, got a promotion to account manager or junior advisor, whatever you want to call it. Did that for about 2 years. So I helped clients with banking, credit, investments, same as I do now, just less complex. I also did the banking and credit for high net worth individuals. So not their investments, because they had their own investment advisors. Did group company signups, so like group pensions and things like that. And I left my current company, went to a different bank. I was a mortgage specialist there for a year. pre-COVID. So that was November 2019. Didn't like it. I didn't like there was no advice in it anymore. People just want the best rate. Didn't like the culture of the bank I was at or the support that was in place. So I decided to leave and return back home, and I'm doing air quotes for all the fans listening in, where I started, and I've been there since November 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, it was near the end of the year, if memory serves me correct. Like, we can do a little bit of short term, but if you're asking me to go long term here, don't really remember. But these type of things that you're into are not, these are not things that a lot of people are into at your age, especially. They would classify it as maybe boring. What is it that appealed so highly to you and interests you so much to get into this field? I know your dad had obviously a big part of it, since this is kind of his game too, and introduced you to it. But beyond that, what personally did you take where it's like, I want to do this?
You know what? It's funny you asked that, because the first maybe 2 years I was in the bank, I never actually planned on staying at the bank. And even pre-working at the bank, that was kind of my safety net. That was like my backup plan if things didn't work out as a paralegal or whatever I was doing. And you just realize that it's a great place to work. The amount of knowledge I gained just from working there will help me further my own life and my own finances. But really, my two motivating factors are, I love money. Money has always appealed to me, as I said earlier. So it's more than just stashing all your money away under a mattress. It's how can you get your money to work for you? What should you do with your money, right? All that kind of stuff. But two, I'm really passionate about helping people and educating people about their finances. So the satisfaction I get when I can teach somebody something they didn't know, or I can help a client get to their retirement better or sooner, or I just open their eyes up to something that maybe they should be doing or they could be doing to help propel them in the right direction. I've really gotten a lot of satisfaction from that over the years. And it's just kind of stuck with me. And it's, I've never really looked back at the whole law side of it. It's still interesting. I don't mind it, but really educating people and helping people with their finances is what I'm passionate about and is what I want to do, and what I want to continue to grow my career doing.
And I think that's super cool, because I think it's very important, and we've discussed this the other day, for the youth of today to be a lot more aware of their financials and about money, how to invest your money. What is your opinion on how we do this earlier? And what I mean by that is teaching kids or teenagers or young adults how to properly manage their money, how to properly invest maybe, or just overall good money habits. If you had the magic wand, how would you fix that so that people got more hip quicker?
That's a great question. And it's kind of twofold of an answer, but one, it starts with the school system. They don't teach us anything. And I was in school not too long ago, and I didn't have a single class or even a single hour seminar or anything about money, about being financially literate, about how to pay your bills, how to follow a budget, how to save for retirement. Like, we didn't learn anything. We learned how to calculate the hypotenuse of a triangle. I don't even know if that's right, clearly.
Don't ask me, bro. I could spell triangle, but I don't know shit about triangles.
Yeah, they have 3 points. That's all I know.
That's as much as, like, I can draw one. I couldn't tell you the precise math of one, though.
But you know what? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because this is the most important information that we need as young people to become successful. And it doesn't, I don't mean successful as a monetary amount. You can make $40,000 a year and still be very successful, just like you can make $1 million a year and not be successful, right? It's more about taking care of you, taking care of your family and your future. And they don't teach us anything. And it's a scary sight to see that we graduate high school or we graduate college, university usually with a lot of debt, student debt, car loans, credit card debt. And then we're just expected to work, pay it off, and start this cycle all over again, because then you need a mortgage, and then you need, your kids are going to go to school, and it's scary to put it into plain context. And I think the second part is at home. A lot of people, parents especially, I've seen this in my job, is they don't know this information, but instead of seeking out the answers or educating themselves, they just pass on what they know to their kids. And I've seen some bad habits get passed down. I've seen 18-year-olds that are already in collections and about to file for bankruptcy. I've seen, 18-year-olds that have thousands of dollars saved just because, that was what their parents told them to do, but they don't know what to do with it. So it can really go either way, but I think it really boils down to the education system. There should be better education in place around finances, starting from when you're young. I was fortunate enough, I was part of this program, and it's a program that's available to all schools, where you go in and you can teach kids about entrepreneurship, resume building, finances, credit, things like that. But this information is very hard to find, and I'm just fortunate enough I've gained it working in the industry. And that's part of one of my reasons of why is I want to share this information with as many people as I can, because it's not common knowledge, and there are people that go their whole lives without learning it, and it's really just to benefit yourself, if not for anybody else.
I totally agree in full, especially when it comes to the education side of things. What my opinion is, once you've reached grade 10, there should be an option for you if you want to do things like math. See, in the province of Ontario, we are mandated that all students have to get grade 12, so they have to complete math, every single grade up to grade 12 mandatory. Same with English. To be honest with you, how many people after you leave school can honestly tell you that anything they took part in for grade 11 and 12 math benefited them in any way? I'm not saying there's none. There's going to be a small percentage of people that it greatly benefited and went on to do great things because of it. And that's amazing. That's wonderful. But there's probably 75, 85, maybe even 90% of students that it did absolutely nothing for. So my opinion is that once you reach grade 10, it should be additional or by choice if you want to do grade 11 and 12 math or grade 11 and 12 English. And instead, what should be mandatory is that you should get 2 years of financial advice and lessons and be taught a curriculum based around setting you up for a financial future where you're educated and smart on it. So let's just say you like to educate people on it. If you had the choice for a curriculum, how would you kind of lay it out? Like, what are some of the key points that you would want to teach these kids on that you feel would be most important for them?
I think it starts with age too. You don't want to start with young kids trying to teach them very complicated things, because again,
let's say we're starting at starting at 16.
First one, hands down, has to be done is how to create a budget and how to follow a budget. When people hear the term budget, they think, oh no, I got to put all my money away and I can't enjoy life. That's not the case. But to put it into simple context for listeners, go to your checking account or your savings account or your credit card statement for the last month and add up how much you spent on food, not groceries, from buying food out, your $5 coffees at Starbucks, Tim Hortons, and I don't know, smokes if you smoke or whatever have you. And if you add that up together, it will be very eye-opening for you to see how much of this money you're pissing away on dumb shit. And we all do it. I do it too. I'm guilty.
Yeah, sure. I do as well. I don't do it as often, especially during this pandemic where not a lot of things are available. However,
but I would just say really understand how your money is coming in and how much you're receiving from, if it's work, if it's investment income, if it's any kind of income, versus how much you're spending. And there's a quote I heard that kind of resonated with me. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. And it's very true, because like I said, I know people that can make $1 million a year, but they're spending $1.5 million a year. Well, it doesn't matter how much you're making, you're actually in the hole 500 grand a year. So creating a budget and how to create a budget effectively and stick to it is number one. You won't understand your money until you see it come in and come out. 2 is credit. Credit is so important. And this is kind of a topic where people differ on sides. Some people will say, it's not important. Some people say you never need credit in your life, and there's merit to that. Credit is something that has to be used responsibly, and it's for us to know and learn before we get it. I've seen people in collections, in bankruptcy, that have turned it around. And I've seen people that have had everything and lost it all. So whether or not you choose or decide that credit or debt, or however you want to call it, is important or something you need, I think you should still understand it. I'll give you a quick story. When I turned 18, I loved money, but I didn't know anything about money. And I went to my bank and I got my first credit card. And the advisor at the time put the credit card on the desk and said, your limit's $1,000. Have a great day.
Yep.
And to me, as an 18-year-old kid, like, luckily I was good with money and I had my parents to kind of coach me, but that could have gone very wrong. And at 18, I could have screwed my credit up. Now, would I fix it by now? Sure. But it's important when you want to buy a house, when you want to buy a car, if you're going to rent, these are all things where your credit's taken into consideration. So, if you never have credit, that's fine, right? The people get by without it, but we're not taught how to responsibly use it. Too many students are getting into student debt that's just consuming them, and they don't know how to catch up because they didn't know any other option, right? They weren't told interest rates and how much they're going to be paying, how long it will take them to pay it off. Mortgages, people don't really understand mortgages, but if your house is your biggest purchase of your life, you should. So I would say budgeting, credit. And then the third one I would say really is just how to save for retirement. A lot of people don't save for retirement because they think the government's going to take care of them. I'll be honest with you, the government doesn't take care of anybody but itself. If you're relying on government to retire comfortably and live the lifestyle you want to live, you're going to be SOL during retirement. Because if you look at what retirement incomes come in right now, CPP, OAS, all that stuff, that's a fraction. That's like groceries. Really quickly, I met a client the other day, lovely couple, they're sweet as could be. They're in their 70s, the average life expectancy is 90. They have 15 years to live and they only have 10 grand to their name. So that really is eye-opening that you got to live another 15 years and you don't have any money. Like, where's it going to come from? And especially people want to live, I want to go on vacations every year and I want to have property in Florida and I want to do this, do that. Everybody does.
It all. Yeah.
Everybody does. But, if you're not putting the plan in place now, you'll never get there later.
100% agree. And I think all of that would be super beneficial because speaking from the flip side, speaking as someone who is very financially irresponsible, I take full responsibility for my actions with my credit, my financials, my money spending, etc. But I would be remiss to say that if I had the education that I feel is important now, looking back in retrospect, it could have been different. Now, I don't live in the could-haves or should-haves or would-haves. My goal to get you on here is that if even one young individual listens to this episode and hears these things and gets more curious about it and starts looking more into it and educating themselves or seeking out an advisor, hey, man, we've done our job here because I fucked my credit royally. I got a credit card at 18, like you said, $1,000 max limit. I was going to concerts, doing this, doing that, just not considering. Like, at first I understood the concept. Obviously, you have to pay this money back, and there's certain time, like you have to pay a monthly bill to pay your minimum back and stuff like that. And I did all that for a little while, and then it got to the point where I started figuring out that you don't have to pay them back, and it'll just go to collections and all you'll have are these annoying phone calls. But at the end of the day, that's it. That was my mentality at the time. So obviously, through being a super young guy and moving from job to job, trying to find his way in the world and having moments where maybe not working and being lazy and perpetuating all sorts of stereotypes about my age at that point, I financially fucked myself, and I'm still climbing out of it to this day. So that's why it's important for me to try to get anybody that's young to stay away from that road, because you can take a lot of different paths in life. The one path that'll really set the tone for many, many years in your life is credit and financial.
And to touch on your point, I mean, you said young people, but to be fair, anybody, any age, it's never too late.
Absolutely.
Right? You can never be too old to learn what to do with your money and how to be responsible with it. And the other thing is, we're a product of our environment, right? Like, nobody teaches us anything and we're just expected to go out and learn, right? if any of the listeners here, do you know how much you pay on your credit card bill? It's between 20 and 25%, right? So some people don't even know that.
I think mine like 19% or something like that on my credit card.
So 19.99 or 20 or whatever you want to call it. But that's crazy to think that for every $100 you're paying the person who owns the credit card $20. It's really eye-opening. So, like you said, if anybody listening can take away one lesson, it's never too late, and it will only benefit you in the long run, because only you are going to look out for yourself. It's not the government, it's not the bank, it's not anybody else but you.
No, because the system is designed around the government and the banking institution, and the system is designed for your failure, because the biggest business in the planet is the fucking government and the banking sector. Look at everything that's going on Wall Street right now with the whole GameStop fiasco, but now it's affecting them. So now it's, let's fucking cut all this shit off because we need to stay in our position. But us little people, we're not going to set you up for success at all. Either success will be built in within you and you come from a family of success, or you're going to have to get your hands dirty, people like myself, and grind and grind and grind and grind, or people like you that have to grind and grind to get what you want. And we have to learn the hard way a lot of times. And you're 100% right. I even take back a little bit of my statement. I don't want just young people. I also want people of all ilk, because Dan, you brought up an interesting point. You said tally up all your stuff. I'd actually be curious to see what my expenditures are tallying. Now, I know I've been getting significantly better with my finances. However, I'm curious to see myself. So you even got me thinking, right? It's like, maybe I should evaluate. Now, you said budget. How would you create the perfect budget?
Easy. You can literally find them on Google. Budget tool, budget calculator. You can get a piece of line paper and a pen. It doesn't have to be fancy. You write down all your expenses. So insurance, phone bill, mortgage payment or rent if you have it, gas, groceries, everything you spend money on. So money out. And then you write your money in. So how much you make a month, whether it be from part-time jobs, full-time jobs, investments, rental income, and just and side by side. If your cash flow is negative, which means if you spend more than you make, you're in the hole every month. So you're not getting any farther ahead. So you might have to look at pick up a second part-time job. You might have to look at reducing your expenses. You might have to look at some other options. But at the end of the day, you should just know how much money you make and how much money you keep, right?
That's totally fair. Honestly, that makes the most sense. And I think I come close to doing that and accomplishing that with my own budgets. But what I like to maybe focus a little more on now when I'm making my budget, because I'm inspired after this conversation to do such a thing again, just to reevaluate my budget, because I don't look at the second part. I don't look at the latter. I don't look at what money's going out really and what money needs to really truly stay in, right? So no, that's really cool. It's a great piece of advice for anyone listening. And you also touched upon the retirement thing as well. I think that's super important. I think a lot of us that's where one of those things where we take life for granted. And we live in the moment and live in the now, which I fully encourage. You should absolutely do that, because you can die tomorrow morning. No one's here is suggesting that you hoard every penny and don't live. What we're saying 100%. Is just do it responsibly and do it smart, and learn when to treat yourself versus just lavishing yourself all the time foolishly.
Absolutely. And you know what? Like, at the end of the day, I work for a bank. I am not the bank.
Right.
So I take everything I learn and I just share it with people, because it doesn't cost me anything. I'm fortunate I have a career that teaches me these things. But if it were me, even when I was 18, I wish I could have taught myself all this stuff. Would I be farther ahead? Sure. But you know what? Don't take retirement for granted. And the other thing I wanted to say is, especially now with COVID, nobody ever expected this to happen. Nobody could have predicted this. Nobody would have saw it coming. So now is the time to really look at it and say, wow, I'm getting CERB, or I'm getting EI, or great, I've been laid off, or I haven't, whatever your situation. Now is the time, because if you didn't have an emergency fund, right? Usually people say 3 to 6 months of your expenses. Not most people did. I didn't have one. I was just kind of floating by the seat of my pants.
I certainly don't fucking have one.
Right. But now it really puts it in perspective when if you get laid off a job and you have no emergency fund and no extra cash flow saved, where's your money going to come from? Yeah, CERB was great. CERB's not free money. You're going to have to pay it back eventually.
And we don't know how we're going to have to pay that back. That is to be determined by the supreme leaders themselves.
Exactly. But what if there wasn't CERB? What would you be doing every month? How would you be making your money or paying your bills? So now should really open up a lot of people's eyes that, you know what, whether you're working or not, look at your finances, look at what's going on, look and see what you can do to positively impact your future. At the end of the day, like I said, you're the only one that's going to look out for yourself.
100%. I don't care how much you love the next person or how much the next person means to you. You got to look out for yourself, because not to say that relationships would fracture with, like, say your parents is an example. You'll always have your parents. One day they're not going to be here. That's what I mean when it's, you really got to focus about yourself and think about yourself. Even a significant part or significant other, your partner, you don't know what'll happen there either. Life is so fleeting and you just never know. And what you really need to concern yourself with in a logical way, that's not selfish and whatnot. But you really got to focus on yourself. And I think a 3-month emergency benefit is definitely key. Now, say you've touched on the $40,000 a year person. They're living and they're paying rent and all this stuff. How much money do you feel everyone should put aside in that sort of situation when they're struggling and going almost, because 40,000, let's face it, is probably a paycheck to paycheck type of lifestyle. Right. When you factor in the expenses of rent, food, vehicles, gas, insurance, et cetera, how much would you recommend that person put away? Because they're already looking and they're saying, Dan, I've looked at everything that I do. I'm not really having anything go out. How the fuck am I going to save for my retirement?
You know what? That's just such a great question. And that was me 2 years ago, last year. Like, my income was not far from that. So I definitely feel you and sympathize with you, but it's not a black and white answer. It depends on everybody's situation. You should save or put away what you can comfortably. Am I telling you not to buy Christmas gifts for your kids because you need to save for retirement? Absolutely not. Don't think that's what I'm saying. But if you look at your expenses and you look at your income and you're spending $80 a month on Starbucks coffee, right? Because it's not hard. It's $5 a coffee, 5 days a week. It's $25 right there, right? That's $100 a month on coffee at Starbucks. Maybe you can say, listen, what if I go make coffee at home? Or what if I buy less coffee? Maybe I buy 1 coffee a week. Or you're spending money on smokes, or you're just spending it on dumb shit. Amazon was my guilty pleasure. I was, I know we both relate on this.
Fuck yeah.
It was a dark wormhole where you go on for one thing and then you add 14 things to your cart and your bill's like $400 and you're like, what the hell did I just do?
Oh, really? So, I don't have that thought. I'm just like, YOLO, fucking can't wait for the Amazon man to show up. $400 worth of shit's coming. It's when the shit comes. And then I'm looking around and I'm like, this is what I got? Like, I got a lot of things, but like, they're just things.
Yes. There's no substance to them. It wasn't really anything you needed. But to your question, it depends on your situation. Start with your budget, see what comes in, what goes out. Cut expenses where you can, reasonably. Usually a good rule of thumb is anywhere from 10 to 15% of your income should be saved for retirement or for whatever have you. If you're paycheck to paycheck and you don't have $1 to spare and all your expenses have been trimmed, well, let's look at some other options. Part-time job is a big one. A lot of people right now are getting part-time jobs for extra income. You may not even have to leave your house. There's plenty of part-time jobs, work from home. Skip the dishes, Uber Eats. I did that too, and I made good money from that. Maybe you're living somewhere that's a little bit too out of your price range, and that's going to be a harsh reality for a lot of people. So I don't start there, but you may have too much of a house or too much of a condo or too much of a residence that it's unnecessary and you're paying too much. So really look at those kinds of things, but there's no black and white answer for that. Is start with your budget, see where you can reduce your expenses, but do it comfortably. Don't put yourself in a hole. Don't stretch yourself too thin, because it's going to backfire. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel stressed and anxious. It's not going to benefit anybody. Start with what you can. The thing is, you have to start. Even if it's $25 a month. You're going to say, Daniel, what is $25 a month going to do for me? Well, if you put $25 a month away for 2 years, it may not sound like a lot, but it's more than you would have had if you spent that money. Right? So
that's totally fair. At least you're starting to see something too, and you're developing a habit. You got to start somewhere, right? And that's my biggest issue, is that I would like I have goals of saving $200 a month, right? Well, we're on January 31st and I'm climbing out of some holes still. So now I'm looking at February and going, okay, if I want to make up for the 200 that I wanted to put away last month, then I got to put in 400 this month. And then I started realizing this is too lofty of a goal to start this venture, because I was very financially irresponsible for a very long time. I've only maybe in the past 6 months started to start figuring it out. I'm not saying I got it right or anything like that, or I'm perfect, but I started figuring it out and I started really taking it in. Because the beginning of the pandemic in March of last year, I don't know, everybody just went crazy and we all kind of did the same thing. Money was coming in. We couldn't go anywhere. We were in true lockdowns, whatever they call this, stay at home, whatever. Okay, whatever. That's a conversation for another time. However, when the first lockdown happened, shit was locked down. Gas prices were at 68 cents a liter. There was nobody on the roads. It felt really odd. And all we had to do to pass the time was whatever we could. And I'm one of those people that gets that gratification, instant gratification, off of shopping on Amazon. And I spent so much money. And then it came to a point where it's like, I've been saying for a year now that I need a new computer. I'm calculating the costs of everything that I spent on Amazon just during the pandemic. I could have had 3 computers. Real shit. And that's just within the span of March. Like, I spent an extraordinary amount of money between March and May/June just to get through all that. Was my excuse at the time.
Yep.
And I said never again. So what I need to do is I need to adjust this $200 a month, I think, to 25. I'm going to take your advice as of today's episode. I'm going to be the first person that takes the advice and I'm going to start putting $25 a month away, and I'm going to start it as like retroactively. So I'll put $25 in today. That'll make up for my January, and we'll continue on. And then maybe when we talk shop in 6 months, I can start to say, yeah, you know what, Dan, that was really good fucking advice. Because now I've started this pattern of doing that. And now I'm getting excited seeing that money stays somewhere and it doesn't move and it doesn't leave. Now I want to see it grow. And a big part of that inspiration is my dad, actually, right now, because we've been able to assess his situations and make a bunch of changes, and he keeps giving me updates on where he's at. And he's living so much better. He's living comfortably, living how he wants to live, right? Like he's in a freedom state where I can tell the stress doesn't do anything to him, because his biggest stresses was financial. Otherwise, everything
most people's is.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is that why put ourselves through all that? So when he keeps coming and saying, oh, I've got X amount saved now, I'm like, fucking A, old man, like you're boosting me. I want to come back and say, yeah, I got whatever, because we're very open and whatever. We're best friends, so we tell each other everything. And it's very encouraging to speak to people like yourself, or even just people that are really in that zone, because there is a lot of people that will complain about their financial situations, but they don't want to look at the bare bones and truth of the matter, that they could be in a better situation if they didn't stop spoiling themselves so much or lavishing themselves so much. The Tim Hortons is the greatest example of that. I know some people that get 3 double-doubles every single day. And to those international listeners wondering what a double-double is, it's a Canadian term for 2 cream, 2 sugar in your coffee. So, but we know a lot of people that get into that habit, and like you said, it's just a toonie here, a toonie there, and again, to our international listeners, a toonie is $2.
$2 coin. Yep.
$2 coin, that's right. So, and it's very easy to just do that and do that and do that, and it just, you never even think about it. And that's part of the design of the system, because what's in coffee? Caffeine and addictive things like tobacco and alcohol and stuff like that. That's why they're the most pushed substances. In the medical sector, they always push opiates and things of that nature because you can get the most addicted to them. I'm reading this right now from a legal bag of cannabis, because in Canada we're fully legal, and it's from a company called Pure Sun Farms. Really good stuff. It's a Def Bubba indica, by the way. I was really impressed with it. But the warning label that the government put on this beautiful bag of cannabis is warning: cannabis can be addictive. Up to half the people who use cannabis on a daily basis have work, social, or health problems from using cannabis. Now, I'm not going to say that that's totally false, okay? But those numbers are extremely flawed. Half, who are you talking to assert that half of all these people? Half of what? Half of fucking 6 people you talk to? So 3 of these yahoos had these fucking problems, and like, what were their problems, right? Did they have depression issues, mental health problems? Why were they using cannabis? Because I truly believe, and it's proven, that there's no addictive additives in cannabis, but that's why it's been so pushed away and demonized and bastardized, because there's no addictiveness to it. There's nothing in the government for you to buy. At least once upon a time, that was their thinking. Now they finally understood that it's the green cash cow. However, that's what pisses me off so much about the system and the way it's designed, is things of this nature. But the financial sector and how they have it set up, and the things that they want you addicted to, so you spend your money on it frivolously because you're depending on it. Man, people need to wake up, and they need to really analyze all that beer you're buying every week. Like, do you really need to get drunk Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Because let me tell you, if you have to get drunk every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that's your quote unquote unwind, you need to really analyze your life beyond your financials, I must say. And I'm not knocking you, I'm not hating on you. If you were just having a drink or two, fine. But I mean drinking to excess of being drunk, spending enough money on alcohol each weekend to the point where you're inebriated. You need to look at more than just your financials. But there's so many people out there, and the system is designed for that.
And we all have our vices. I mean, we're all human, and it happens, but it's also being responsible, moderation. But I'm not here to preach. I'm nobody's dad. I'm nobody's life coach or whatever.
No, fuck that. I'm here to preach. I'm here to preach. Definitely. I want to see the good in everybody. And I feel there's a lot of things that the system has set up
100%
to hold people down. And that's why I want to like be really strong about my opinion on some things, where it's like, fuck all that. Like, you are meant for so much more, and you are capable of so much more. Do not be stifled by the way the system is designed. Don't fight back against the system. Fuck the system, because the positives of the system is also designed where you can overcome, because if you do overcome and you do become successful, you're going to pay more taxes, and the government still wins.
Somehow they're always, they know they'll always get their paycheck, so they don't care. But
how much it is, that's irrelevant. They always get it somehow, some way. That's why people are asking during this pandemic, well, the government's shilling out millions of dollars. Companies are making record profits for the year 2020. Record profits. And they're doing it by trimming all the unnecessary fat and stepping things back. And you can go to Walmart right now and you can be around 250 people, if not more. However, you're not allowed to go to, say, I'm not allowed to go to your house right now because that's dangerous. That's dangerous. So this lockdown and all this stuff, to me, is asinine as well. And I've touched on it on the first episode that I did with Mike yesterday. these lockdowns, I feel, are designed to remove the small businesses. Obviously, they're designed for, because I don't discredit COVID. I think COVID is real. And I think that they definitely have designed the lockdowns to try and bring down the numbers as they suggest.
Yep.
But there's also ulterior motives to everything. And that's one of the ulterior motives is let's get rid of all the small businesses that take up all the fat. And let's focus on building up even bigger businesses and bigger conglomerates and making more money. All this money that the government's paying out to all you guys, and myself included, because I took part in CERB, I won't even try to deny that. They're not bankrupting themselves at all. A record amount of taxes have come to the Canadian government and the American government and the British government, record numbers, because everyone's still spending. You're still allowed to spend food. So everybody's ordering out every night to make themselves feel better. Everyone's still buying alcohol. Everyone's still buying cannabis. Everyone's still buying their vices. They're driving. They're still buying gas because gas is at the most expensive right now that it's been in a very long time. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. So that's why I'm super strong on my opinion, where it's like, no, fuck that, man. We got to start thinking, and we need to stop being everything so left and so right. And we need to start thinking about the way things are set up and how we can fight against that and overcome that. So if you want to be strong about your opinion, brother, you be fucking strong about your opinion. Don't walk back shit on the Canadian Talkin Shop podcast, because fuck them if they can't take a joke, right?
Hey man, listen, I totally agree with you, and the way that the government's handling this, I mean, it frankly doesn't make any sense. You're going to have small businesses shut down because 2 people can't be in their store, but you're going to have 400 people in fucking Walmart, rubbing up against each other because that's okay.
Yeah, because nobody gives a shit. Everyone can attest to this. Anyone that's at these stores, nobody follows the fucking arrows. Nobody social distances. That's the big social distancing is 2 of the biggest joke words out there right now. Because if you work anywhere, and I've worked quite a few places since the beginning of the pandemic trying to find my way, and nobody social distances from one another. Everybody's in everybody's space. It's like life is resumed.
They're even closer than they were before COVID.
Yeah, because they feel then they've been taught that this mask is the saving grace. As long as you wear your mask, everything's all good. Essentially is what they're thinking. Is that's not what the government teaches you. The government tries to teach you to wear your mask and social distance. Yeah. But people just got it in their minds. Oh, if I have my mask on, it's all good. Yet you're wearing some fucking cloth that you made personally at home. How protective can this really be? And I'm not trying to knock any of the fine people that have started mask businesses in order to gain some extra income. I think it's great. But when you're buying material from Michael's that you couldn't, like, if you spilt water on it, would leak right through right away. So you're trying to tell me that this material protects my droplets from hitting the air? No, man. Like, if this was really that serious and it was really that bad, we would all be mandatory have to wear medical masks, and they would have filters on them, and they'd have the capability of having the carbon dioxide that leaves your system is now like coming back into you with a lot of these masks. And I think about that often. That's why I try not to wear mine when I don't necessarily need it. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So yeah, and I'm not going to go down completely on that rabbit hole. It just coincides with what we're talking about with the financials and how the financial world is shaping and changing rapidly in the year 2021 because of the pandemic and everything that came with it. So do you think it's going to be even harder for people now to save their money and do financially responsible things when at this point they're just trying to do anything for their fucking sanity?
Well, you know what? It can go either way. So for the people that have lost their jobs, that don't have work right now, and they're struggling to get by, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's not really a whole lot of things that you can do. However, with that being said, human beings are resourceful. We have really making the best out of this situation. There's a lot more entrepreneurs now. There's a lot more people doing online businesses. There's a lot more people working from home, starting their own companies or generating side income or part-time job or whatever have you. because we've realized that the traditional norms of going to work the 9 to 5, coming home, watching Netflix, doing all over again, isn't necessarily the right way to do it. So a lot of people are starting their own ventures, yourself included. You're starting the podcast, and so happy that you're having me on. But I think that with that being said, it can go either way. It depends on the human being themselves, the type of person they are. I know people that complain, and really quickly, I bought my house 3 years ago, just about, and I know people that told me, Daniel, must be nice to own a house. I could never get there. But then they go and they buy themselves a $50,000 BMW when they make minimum wage. So it's all about behavior. Money, when people have money issues or financial issues, it's not actually a money issue, it's a behavioral issue, right? And people don't get that, and they're going to say, well, Danny, what do you mean a money issue is a money issue? It's not, because what led you down that path was the behavior and the choices you made. I think people listening to this and people really that have the time on their hands, never stop learning. That's the one commodity that nobody can ever take away from you, right? Money comes, money goes. Real estate will come and go. Investments will come and go. But what you learn can never be taken away from you, and it can be multiplied and put into fruition for you to be successful. So it doesn't have to be going to school and doing a university degree. I didn't go to university. I think I'm successful. I like to think so. But learn as much as you can about what interests you, about ways you can make money from it, about ways that you can better yours and your family's lives. Because again, you're going to have people during this COVID that took CERB, blew the money, and when the government comes calling back, they're going to say, I don't know what to tell you, the money's gone, and be upset. Or you're going to have people that are going to make the best out of the situation, generate income, pick up a hobby, start a side business, and really come out farther ahead. And COVID will be a blessing in disguise, all things considered, not considering the people that lost their lives and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And that is my hope as well. And of course, it's not I think anyone that has lost, I don't mean to be insensitive towards anyone who's lost anybody due to COVID. And that's why I stress so hard that I totally understand that COVID is real. I know COVID is real. I know it has hit people in unimaginable ways where it hasn't necessarily hit me, and I am thankful for that. And I do have sympathy for anyone that is going through some shit. My takes are just takes on the ulterior motives of everything that's happening, or maybe the opportunistic sort of way that the government is taking this situation, whether it was by design, which I surely hope not. We'll never know. There's a lot of questions to be answered. However, the one good thing that I hope comes out of this is that people are thriving in ways they never thought was possible because they were put to the test. The human will, when put to the test, is capable of so many great things. It's very similar to trapping a rat in a corner. When you trap a rat in a corner, it's going to go into fight or flight mode. 9 times out of 10, it's going to go into fight mode, and it's going to figure out a way to get around you or through you. And human beings are very similar. When they're put in that proverbial corner and it's fight or flight, the body and the mind's reaction, more so than not, is fight. We're going to see this podcast, hopefully, is, I had the plans for this podcast before the pandemic, but it's easier for me to do it now because of the pandemic, because everybody's fucking home. I can do this on Zoom. People are bored. Sure, I'll come bullshit with you and talk shop for 2 hours. Why the fuck not, right? So I really do hope that people gain some benefits or some positives from this, whether it's you figured out your mental health and you knew there was a problem and you got some assistance, or you realized that your financials are just awful and you got it figured out. I just hope that, because they refer to this as the Great Reset.
Yep.
And I hope a lot of people take advantage of this Great Reset in the ways that I'm trying and starting to myself.
We've been blessed with time. Time is the one thing nobody ever had enough of. Life was moving so fast. And it like we were at a standstill last March. Like life stopped and nobody knew what to do. And especially with mental health, you can be in a dark place, and there were tough times that I suffer from, you suffer from. We've had many conversations about it, but it's not just about you have to be happy-go-lucky. You can have bad days, but you also have to make the best out of the situation you're given, right? So, and the other thing to your point earlier was the number one thing that people suffer from with money is anxiety, right? You get money stress, you get financial anxiety because you're just constantly worried about money, if you have enough, how you're going to get it, how you're going to spend it. If for no other reason than your own sanity, your own mental health, your own well-being, figure it out for that reason so that you can feel better about it, that you don't have that looming stress, that looming anxiety where it's just like, oh my God, I went to work, I got a paycheck, all my money's gone. What do I do now? For that reason alone. And then you'll start to see the other benefits, your future, your family's better, your, I don't know, eating out less, whatever the happens. But start and do it for yourself, and future you will be so thankful. And like you said, you don't have to give up all your vices. You don't have to flip the script and become a hermit and not do anything. Enjoy life, because we're only here for so long. But you also have to prepare for the future. The life expectancy Canada is 90. Even if you live till 80 or 70, I'm 25. That's, almost 50 years from now. That's a long time, right? So don't take it for granted. People say, oh, retirement's, it's a long time away. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. It's not that far away. Time will fly and you'll have limited resources. So for your own health, your own well-being, just to feel better, lots of things to look at.
That's great advice, especially for the mental, because I think it coincides in two different parts. When you're not mentally well, 9 times out of 10 your financials are going to suck. Mm-hmm. And if your money's not right, your mental's going to suffer. But I feel like I'm starting to get better with my money and whatnot is because I'm mentally doing better. I'm doing better for me. I've changed my diet. I've changed my lifestyle. I've changed many different things that'll be beneficial to my mental health. And ever since then, it gets a little more clear about what to do with money, and your goals become different. And like you said, if you're very vague about your goals, you're going to get very vague results. So if you make set goals, and even if you don't necessarily reach them, but if you can do what I did and humbled myself and said, listen, I can't do $200 a month right now. I'm going to have to go and start with 25, even though it doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm going to have to start with that. It's those little mental shifts that'll then make your money happy and you happy. So I think that's really important. And I think that's really great advice. And I think you've given a lot of great advice on here and a lot for people to think about. And as we're closing down the shop here, what's in the future for Mr. Daniel Vincent in terms of your employment? What are some future goals that you have, things that you can share with the show?
Sure. Yeah. Employment wise, just trying to develop into the best advisor I can be. I'm working on certain designations and things like that I need at the bank to become, a financial planner. So it's just a more holistic, more in-depth version of an advisor. Per goals, we just moved into this house, but we always have a goal to buy another house, move out, have the family, pay off debt. I have debt too. So don't think I'm not on here saying I'm better than everybody else or I'm in the same boat as everybody else. I also have debt that I'm trying to pay down.
But there's good debt and bad debt, for the record.
I disagree. I disagree with that.
Really? Okay. So
I disagree with that.
Let's pause where you were going, and we'll get back to your. Let's get into the good debt and bad debt. Why do you disagree with that?
So that's a very common notion. Is good debt is like a mortgage, bad debt is like credit cards and things like that. I think all debt is bad, but there's bad and then there's terrible or bad and worse. So the goal should be to be debt free. You should have no debt, right? Because if you have $1 million worth of a mortgage, you can say, I'm debt free. All I have is good debt. Well, that's still a payment that you have to pay every month. That's still coming out of your pocket. That's still a reason that you have to go to work to pay that. It's not money in your pocket. It's money in someone else's pocket. So I think there's bad debt and then there's worse debt. Worse debt is credit cards, car loans, lines of credit, things like that. Absolutely pay them off, get them out of your life as soon as possible. but I don't really think there's any good debt. You know, certain situations, obviously, if you go into that to buy a house like I did, if you know, take a loan out for a business, absolutely. But the goal should not be to have only good debt. The goal should be to have no debt. That's the long-term goal. Because at the end of the day, it's money that's going to somebody else's pocket that you're working for. I'll give you an example. If my mortgage payment is $2,000, right, and I make $3,000 a month, I'm left with only $1,000 a month, and that's not even covering any expenses. But if I didn't have a mortgage at all, that $3,000 a month is going straight into my pocket. Right. So I don't, it's a very common term, and people may disagree with me, and that's okay, difference of opinion. I don't believe there's anything called good debt. I think there's bad debt and there's worse debt. Worse debt is what you need to get out of your life as soon as possible. Bad debt is like the means to an end. You know, you have to take a mortgage to buy a house, because in Canada, buying a house cash is almost impossible. In the US, people, obviously, prices are lower, so more common. But the long-term goal should be no debt, right? Because
that's totally fair.
Yep.
No, that's
just making somebody for money else.
Absolutely. No, it's totally fair that you make that assessment. It has changed my perspective in the way of, okay, I should look at good debt as no debt. That should be what good debt is, having absolutely no debt. And I think that shift, there's nothing wrong with that shift. However you categorize bad debt or terrible debt or whatever have you, that's up to you. But I do like the let's change the narrative from let's not own any debt and call it good. Let's call the no debt good debt.
Yes, absolutely. No debt is the best debt.
No debt is the best debt. There you go. You already have a tag slogan if you ever get into business for yourself. Call Dan Vincent, because no debt is the best debt.
Best debt. Yeah, I like it.
I'm already doing plugs for you and you don't even have anything set up. But let's go back to your life. So you said that you have debts just like everybody else, and where were you going from there?
Just paying off my debt, saving. You know, like I said, I've kind of switched jobs over the past few years. So just staying more consistent with it. Picking up a hobby. You know, I kind of fell off with COVID like everybody else. I stopped doing my meditation. I stopped doing my goal planning. I stopped just enjoying life and doing the things that make me happy. So really picking up my routines and making them consistent. That's number one, I think, for mental health that we've also spoke about, is routines and structure. The amount of good it can do for you, even if you think it can't. You know, not everybody has to go work out an hour at the gym or whatever bullshit they tell you to do, or go run a marathon. No, just get up, do some stretching, meditate for 10 minutes. Like, all these things reoccurring over the long term will benefit you. But building consistent habits, paying off my debt, buying another house, having a family, growing my career, probably the usual, nothing too crazy. I would love the opportunity to start a side business or a secondary source of income. But that's kind of in the works, seeing what I can do, not rushing anything, one day at a time.
It's 5 years in the future, and you and I are sitting down to talk shop for episode 500 and whatever.
Sure.
What does your life look like at that point? If you had the crystal ball and you can envision and manifest what you want that life to look like, what does it look like?
Absolutely. I would say kids. I would say definitely I would at least have one or a second, or some on the way or something along those lines. I want that family. I want the next house. I want a house, so obviously viewers can't see it, but I live in a house with no backyard and no basement right now. It's a type of townhouse. Love it. It's just enough for the two of us, but I want a nice big backyard. I want a pool. You know, I love cooking. Cooking was actually my first career choice. So I want a nice kitchen where I can have all my gizmos and gadgets. I want to be happy and satisfied with where I am in 5 years. I think that's a bigger part. Is human nature is always to want more. But I've really realized in the past year or so that it's okay to be where you are now, because you're working towards something. You're not going to be here forever. So being happy with it. Debt-free. My goal is to be debt-free in 2 years. So 5 years I should be there. And then obviously earning a lot more, whether it be self-employed or with my current employer. Nothing too crazy, man. Like, I don't have super high goals, expectations, but you know, having a couple investment properties is up there. So working towards those things. But again, it starts with having a plan and having your goals here, because if you don't have any plans, if you don't have any set goals, in 5 years, I'm going to be exactly where I am now to have the same conversation with you.
That's exactly correct. Speaking from my own personal experiences of not being a goal setter and just kind of letting life pass me by, I would suggest that I let a lot of my 20s just pass me by, and I didn't really evolve much. Like I did a little bit and whatnot, but I'll take full accountability that I just really took it for granted. And that's why I consider my 30s to be my best years. And I preach to people like yourself and people younger than me that when you get to your 30s are the best years of your life, because there's something in your brain that just turns over and you just start getting it more. And I think that's the key, obviously, to life. And that's why it's so important to listen to your elders and people that are much older than you when they speak to you, speak with wisdom anyway. I mean, if they're just rambling on like the drunken, old ass uncle at the party, don't listen to him. But if grandpa starts talking some real wisdom as shit, you listen, because I didn't have it figured out in my 20s, and I'm into my 30s, and I now feel like I'm starting to live life. Dude, you've had it figured out somewhat since the day I met you, and you're 25, and that's why it's so exciting to hear what your version of what you're going to be when you're 30 is, because I can see you doing it in full, and you look at it as just like, just a couple investment properties and whatever. There's people in my age that are renting basement apartments, and you're talking about a bigger home and all this stuff. You're doing really awesome things in your life, dude, and I'm so proud of you. And you're like family to me, and I just can't wait to see where you go next. And just keep killing it, man. You're going to be an inspiration to people, whether you know it or not. And you probably already are, whether you know it or not. I mean, you're almost 10 years younger than me, and you inspire me. So just keep doing what you're doing, dude. I have no doubt in my mind you're going to be super successful with whatever you want to do.
Well, thank you so much. It really means a lot. And, I just want to say I'm proud of you as well. I'm finally so happy to be on the podcast. It's been in the works for quite some time, and I knew it was going to take off. So great work to you and Mike, obviously, because you guys work as a team. But I'm very proud of everything you've accomplished, the steps you've taken to further yourself and to look out for your own well-being. And it really means a lot. Thank you so much, and for having me on, of course. But it means a lot to have one of my best friends, somebody I also consider family, to say those kinds of things and bring me on. It makes me feel like, I have value, and the advice that I provide is valuable to people other than the people I currently give it to. So that's fantastic, and I really appreciate it.
Not a problem, buddy. I mean, outside of Mike, you're the first person I've interviewed outside of Mike. And I realistically, I don't know how any of these are going to go. I just know that I know some really amazing people in my life, and I've had great conversations with them. I don't even write notes anymore. I'm all about organic. And I had no idea how this was going to turn out, and I haven't listened to it back yet, obviously, but just having the conversation, this has been so much fun, dude. Thank you for coming on the show. Never mind me having you. You guys are going to hear more from Dan as time goes on. He has a lot more to say, and we have a lot more to talk about. There's subjects like mental health and sports and so many things that we didn't even touch into yet. But brother, keep kicking ass, and thank you for coming to Talkin Shop with me.
Anytime. We'll talk again soon.
All right, well, there you guys have it. Episode 2 is in the bank. You heard it from Daniel V himself. Some tips on how to save some money, some really good financial advice, and things to really open up your eyes as to what our children are simply just not getting in the classroom. Maybe if you have children, maybe it's something that you want to educate them on your own. But now that it's brought to light, it certainly opened up my eyes, and it opened up your eyes to a lot of things now, didn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it's definitely a great episode, and I think he's definitely someone that should be back on featured again, just for some pointers, advice kind of thing. Like you were saying in the episode there, he's got a lot of good knowledge. 2 hours kind of doesn't contain it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really doesn't do it justice, and we will have him back for sure. We're hoping to anyway, as long as he wishes, but because he can talk about so much, and having you involved on a conversation of that level would be fun too, because you'll bring some questions that I probably won't think of. And now with that being said, a lot of the listeners probably not until about like the 8 to 10 episode mark is actually going to start hearing Mike being a part of the interview process. So for those that have been messaging me saying how great of a job he's doing and stuff like that, couldn't agree more. And he's definitely going to be involved with the people, because a lot of the people that I have already had on for conversations or interviews, whatever the fuck you want to call them, are all saying, is Mike going to be on with us next time? So next week, we're going to be having my spiritual mentor, Susan Weber, on the podcast. And we have a very deep and emotional conversation that I think everyone will enjoy. I really sort of put myself out there in terms of some serious emotional things. I touch on some things with my family. We go very deep into our origins and how we discovered spirituality and what it means to us today. And I think it's a really great listen, and I hope everyone enjoys it. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. We need a few more in order to start reading them on air. Yes, we are on that level where Apple won't even show us, even if there's 1 or 2 on there. No, there needs to be a certain amount. So we need all you guys to come together, go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, and we'll start reading more reviews like we did with Stacy today. I also want to give a quick shout out to Mama J, Julie, who is one of my best friends, Heather's mom. She's also like a mother to me. You'll hear in the episode with Susan my struggles with my relationship with my biological mother, but I always had Julie in my corner, and she always treated me as if I was one of her own, and to the point where she would go out and have a lunch with me at any point in time, and we text often, and we see each other every Christmas. And I honestly love her from the bottom of my heart. So if you're ever listening to this, Mama J, you mean the world to me, and just thank you for being you at a time when I've always needed someone like you. So, and to wrap things up here, where can they find you, Mike? And be detailed. Tell them exactly where to go.
Cutlet House Plays on Facebook.
Okay.
Cutlet House on YouTube, or you look up Murphy Monday on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, Cutlet House. I'm not too active on Instagram. It's kind of back and forth. I feel like I'm old and I don't really use it that much.
I feel that way about Twitter. I don't use the Twitter at all. I
Yes.
promote it, but there's nothing there.
I stopped Twitter for different reasons. That'll be come out in a future episode.
Yeah, we're saving that for another day.
But on another note, the next episode's a really good one. I don't want to give it away, but it is a good one. I learned a lot of stuff when it came to like the store. She talks about store she works in, or she sells. Like I said, I don't even gonna give away what she sells. At first, I was one of the people that was like, okay, this sounds like a bunch of whatever you call it.
Juju or hokey pokey bullshit.
Yeah, and even to the point where I was like, I paused and I'm like, is this gonna be like 2 hours? I don't know. But then I'm like halfway through, and it was one of those things where I'm like kicking myself in the ass, and I'm like, I need to look further than a first impression. And it was one of those things. So definitely, like, it's something that could change your mind about stuff, and it's a really good one to get into.
That's cool you said that, because to be honest with you, I haven't really gotten any impression on what you thought about that episode, but the fact that you feel that way is really cool. And it's something that I'm trying to work on in my own life, is being more open-minded to things. I used to be a very closed-minded individual, and there's still a lot of that remaining. So I'm trying my best to be a lot more open-minded about certain things. So I can completely empathize with where you're coming from, but I'm appreciative and thankful enough that you did take something away from it, and you did realize, and we'll talk about it when we introduce the episode for Susan next week, because you come from a Christian background and I very much have a more spiritual and non-Christian background. And that is the teaser, folks. If you want to hear everything we were just talking about and more, tune in next week. The episode 3 with Susan Weber will be available on Friday, March 19th. Until next time, I'm your Canadian Talkin Shop, Stu Francis, signing off.